Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am, of course, your host as always, Chad. Joining me is the great one himself, Marcus. Marcus, how the heck are you?
Man, always a fun time with you. Got an interesting docket this week.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Departures, retirements, bad shows, good shows, just wild, wild nonsense. We got to start with a recurring theme. Marcus joked off air. We got to name our show after this because it seems to be the only thing happening in this damn company. And he's not wrong. We got two more TNA departures that happened over the last couple of days. Both knockouts. Both were in the knockouts television tournament, and now they're both gone. That being Jody Threat and Mara Sade. Mara's been here maybe a year, if that. And Jody Threat just extended her deal earlier this year, but it seems like both of them were on per date deals, and it seems like the rumors are obviously true that TNA has gotten rid of any type of guarantees for these deals, making it so that if you're not working the shows, you're not getting paid. And we're only working twice every other month, there's not a lot of money to be made. Now, I have to imagine some of this is prohibitive. I have to think these contracts may be causing them to have to miss bookings because of the involvement with AEW and all these other smaller companies now with My AEW, the streaming service that's launching or has launched. I don't know its current state. And when you have so many companies willing to back AEW, you're probably missing out. I don't know, 20 different high-end indie promotions are now no longer able to be wrestled at because of your partnership with the WWE and their just totalitarian approach to the industry. So I can see why if you're not working every week, if you're not working these shows, if you're not getting, any of these bonus checks by working these bigger indies, I could see why you want to leave TNA because you're probably not making more than a few $100 a show. And I'm so bothered by what's going on in this company that it's really sapping some of my fandom for it. I ended up getting those MLW hobby packs that I told everyone not to buy because they're way too expensive, and they were. They were. But also, I got some cool cards, and it looks like they're coming out with a more price-friendly option that's not a hobby pack. So the hobby pack for the MLW cards, just so you're wondering, are all primo cards. They're all like specialty cards. Like if you open up, a standard pack of cards, you'll get like, you know, oh, you might get a standard LeBron, you might get like a standard Luca, you might get a standard, so and so, and then you'll get like a 1 of 10 Derrick Rose hologram foil that goes for like $15 on its own ungraded, and you're like, oh, that's cool. The MLW hobby pack is all those types of cards. Every single card you get is super rare, super special, super whatever. But it's still a lot of money. Dick's will be selling the MLW standard packs. It's going to be like a pack of 10. I think there's like 8 cards or something like that. No, it's 30 cards, I think, in total for $25. It's a little pricey for collector cards, but like, I'm a junkie when it comes to cards and comics. So, like, I know what I'm shooting in my veins this week. But I'm falling more into MLW and into other feds because what's going on in TNA is such an abysmal travesty. It doesn't need to be like this. And there's only two options. One far less likely, which is the TNA fan approach, where it's like, well, TNA is being used to pay down the debts of Anthem. And like, listen, that might be true, but the more likely option and the more believable option and the only option that makes sense for what they're doing. Because if Anthem's trying to pay down their debts, it would make more sense to sell off Access TV. It'd make more sense to close um, Invicta. It'd make more sense to shutter doors than keep letting the water come in your sinking ship of a company and letting TNA be the only one who fucking buckets out the water. So the most likely option is that they're going to sell TNA. And it doesn't look like they're going to sell it to WWE because if they were, they wouldn't have to worry about getting the numbers up and the prices down on talent because the WWE really just doesn't give a shit. They're gonna, devour it. But also, the WWE doesn't have a reason anymore to buy TNA because one, they don't have the WWE network, so they don't have a reason to acquire their library. They don't really have a reason to get the talent because they could just outbid TNA by giving them, if the average TNA wrestler makes $500 a shows, 501 bucks and a hot dog, and that would be enough to get people to leave TNA because it's not like TNA is offering people reasons to stay. So I think Carlos Silva is trying to hedge their bets, make TNA profitable, and then sell it for a profit to get Anthem out of this hole. And I don't think the WWE is going to pay what Anthem would want for TNA because why would they? TNA has nothing of value. They don't have the talent anymore. They don't have, anything hot that makes them worth checking out. They don't have any merchandise streams. Like MLW has a primo card deal with Panini, which makes great fucking cards. TNA doesn't do that. When TNA was doing their cards, I think they were doing them in house. I don't even think they were doing them with a specific company. I'll have to double check, but like, there's not really anything of value in TNA right now, like at all. So I got to think all these departures are in part due to TNA wanting to sell the company and getting the numbers down as low as possible to entice people to buy the company. And if that's the case, as long as it's not WWE, I want that to happen because anyone would be better off getting this company than Carlos Silva because holy God. Now that being said, I did see somebody say something to the effect like Scott D'Amore is the worst booker ever. He ended Steve Macklin's title reign for Alex Shelley, and I'm like, you're fucking stupid if you think Alex Shelley's right. There's 100 like putting Kushida in the title match against Macklin was a bad move, but like Macklin was not a star and to this day is not a star. No one is tuning into TNA to see Macklin. No one's tuning into TNA, going to live shows to see Macklin. Macklin's a good hand to have on the roster. Like the Road Dog, Jesse James, circa 1999. Everyone wants to sing his catchphrase. You put Road Dogg in the main event of a pay-per-view, no one's showing up to that. They're just not. And that's the case with Macklin. Macklin's not a draw. That's like saying, oh, everyone's here to see the punter. No, the punter's necessary. We don't want the punter to succeed. Maybe a right tackle is more apropos. But like, he's not the fucking quarterback. He's not the star player on the team. Macklin is not the guy that you know some people want to make him. Alex Shelley for 10 years was called the next coming of Chris Jericho. It just nobody wanted to give him the ball. He had great promos when he was champion. He had there wasn't a bad match in his catalog when he was a solo star. So like the idea that Scott D'Amore is quote unquote bad an all-time worst booker because of that makes you an idiot. But even D'Amore, who I've not been a fan of, I went on for years talking about how D'Amore needs to hand over the booking, that he's not a good booker, that his booking is uneven. That said, he did come up with some pretty fucking outlandish shit that paid off, like putting Petey Williams, Jordan Grace, and Scott Steiner in a six-man tag together. Like, that was hilarious. But also, those are few and far between.
He also wasn't hemorrhaging talent. Got
No,
hemorrhaging talent.
no, people loved working with Scott D'Amore. They loved him. They thought he was a great guy. They trusted him. He brought Ken Shamrock out of retirement. If TNA had a bigger TV contract when that happened, that'd be bigger news. By the by, for what it's worth, not that it's a good thing necessarily, but it is exposure. When I was looking up the story for Mara Sade and Jody Threat leaving TNA, one of the first hits was Fox News. Now, listen, I don't read Fox News, but the fact that such a major outlet is covering this is at least something. Now, the outlet for those wondering was Fox News.
Oh, okay.
Not a great outlet. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it's great to see it. I'm just saying they're
yeah,
a
but
major top 5 cable news network still.
yeah,
So like
Yeah,
It-
usually the big kahuna, aka WWE, usually gets first rights, if you will,
yeah,
perception wise, anyway, in that regard. Um, but yeah, real quick, because I don't know if we even ever talked about that, talking about the Moore's retention rate, which probably doesn't get talked about enough. Uh, he also was over the period of time that little quick high period where we got Osprey in there,
yeah.
and there was an idea that he may very well come in and sign to the company. From your perspective, how much do you think Moore had to do with that, and how close do you think that was if AEW just wasn't a bigger swimming pool to go in?
Well, I think for Osprey, I think it has less to do about the size of the pool, and this is the case for I would say every wrestler, save for a handful. It's about money, and I want to be
Yeah,
very clear. That's not a sin. You look at look at Rebel. She's got ALS. She can barely talk, barely move. She's probably wasting through whatever savings she has. I don't ever want to be the guy who thumbs his nose at someone for making money in an industry
yeah,
notorious for being cheapskates. So like, make your money. Now you may have to sacrifice something. In Jordan Grace's case, she sacrificed her legacy. She's a nobody anymore. Like, yeah, she's making WWE money, but like, there's no one talking about her anymore.
yeah,
We used to be talking about her monthly. Like, did you see this match? Did you see her promo? Did you see her latest Instagram video? Now she's just in the background, and when she gets released the next year or two, she'll end up in AEW, and they won't know what to do with her because they seem to be stuck in the same deluge of booking that they've been stuck in for 7 years. Like, here's the thing: like, I don't think any of the major three promotions in the U.S. have good booking. Tony Khan treats them like action figures, and he throws them together, but he has no long-term ability to substantiate and get the talent who are over to stay over. It feels like Swerve has dropped off. It feels like Darby's dropped off. Like he gets the big title change, yay, and then what happens? I feel like unless you're Kenny Omega or John Moxley, you're not going to have any regular success at the top of the card. So if and when Jordan gets released, which is bound to happen because WWE is looking for a new all-time high in profits, and it seems like whenever that gets announced, cuts follow.
yeah.
And I have to
They
imagine Jordan's
also
going to be among the cuts.
and they just got Bex, and I think because I gotta go back and check it out. A chair and Lynch just returned, so pecking order.
Yeah, yeah. So like, they're not going to give up on them. Although I would not be surprised if Charlotte or Alexa Bliss or Becky Lynch, more than likely Bailey, one of the big earners, gets cut in the next round of cuts. Wouldn't be surprised. But
I can,
like,
I
that's
yeah,
the issue that we're facing as an industry is that there's not a lot of good bookers right now. On top of the fact that the one company that was producing talent that both AEW and WB were put like Joe Hendry, Jake something, Josh Alexander, um, fucking Ace Austin, Deanna Pratzo, Steve Macklin, the Rascals. Yeah, you look down the list, Beer Money, specifically Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, like all these dudes came from TNA and bolstered up both brands. And now the talent's just leaving, but not with any qualified, without any guaranteed places to go. Marseille may end up in AEW, but Jody Threat won't. Mila Grace isn't.
yeah. She was on a pretty good track. I was rooting for Mom that she was on a pretty good track in TNA to me, and I think she was getting the opportunity she would have just never gotten in TNA. I mean, not TNA, NXT. I mean, they didn't even see enough in her to let her stay, even when they uh, pulled her away from Lash. So uh, I don't know if she wants to go back. If she that was always the plan, and she kind of wants to go back, but I don't know. how that goes. Maybe she can. No, but like we always say, it's funny. AEW, TNA is severely lacking, and AEW is overpacking,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody can't go to AEW even though it feels like that sometimes. And we talk about this now. Just because you work somewhere, don't mean that you will work uh somewhere. Like everybody can go over there, but everybody not gonna translate. Look what happened. I mean, hell, the Guns went to WWE and they put the titles on them. I feel like the week they debuted
The
or the
day
next week they
or
debuted.
the second day they were there.
Yeah, and you have to go back and watch the footage to believe it because I don't even barely recall it. So it's it's one of those things. Now they in AEW, we'll see what they do there. I mean, at least they have a more elevated form of competition. But even with that, it's like they still got a lot of teams that they not using. So it's interesting. Joe, they need to retain TNA needs to retain as many people as they can. The Threat and Sade were on the higher side of the sense of black that's in the overall company, but particularly the knockouts division, which we said has just been threaded to death at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And this only makes it worse. So I mean, it's just not looking good. And this is coming off them losing a talent like Tesla, who you can kind of throw that up as being a loss, kind of either way, a loss benefit category. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the amount of she took a lot of talent with her on an individual level. So it just continues to suck, and it sucks in a way because WWE is just handing people their pink slips at random. These people are asking to leave TNA,
Yeah.
and that's just not good. And it's really speaking to everything that you're talking about. Like we just came off that three-parter with the Dark Side of the Ring. What the freak is going on currently outside of the ring in the company that this many people is asking to leave. Obviously, I think, like you said, money plays a part into it, in particular with the knockouts. Um, and this is not going to like a chauvinistic sexualized thing, but not everybody's going to be side gig and OnlyFans.
Correct. And
So
well, not everyone wants to, and not everyone's going to be able to generate the kind of revenue like Jordan Grace, or like what was her name, the blonde chick from WWE.
Stacey Evans,
No, no, the other,
um, um,
the other blonde.
Mandy Rose.
Yeah, Mandy Rose.
Yeah,
Mandy Rose is traditionally attractive. She's going to pull in a lot of money if she's on OnlyFans, even if she's not doing anything truly provocative. Maybe she's just doing like
yeah,
lewd, nude, maybe even just like covered up, lingerie stuff. Jordan Grace wasn't doing anything nude to the best of my knowledge. That would have leaked. But because she was such a physical specimen and she was so jacked, there's some dudes that are really into that. So like she catered to a very close knit kind of community. Not
yeah,
every woman who wrestles, one, wants to pose like that, and two, will have the ability to generate the audience that they did. But also, you look at just historically with the wrestling pay rates, it's the women who are going to be most affected by not being able to work some of these more major indies because if you're someone who's like, let's just say Marsade is asking for like $500 a show for the sake of argument. Just knowing what I know about indie shows, that's not a lot of promotions can afford that. So you have to go to some of these bigger feds, and when some of these bigger feds are partnering up with AEW, you have to make a decision. Where do you want to go? Do you want to work with guys like Progress and GCW and Revolver or what have you? Well, you can't work with TNA because TNA is making it's almost impossible to work the indies with anyone who can make you any money. So I don't blame these women for wanting out. What I blame is TNA again fucking up their roster for the sake of the almighty dollar. I don't believe that this company hasn't been profitable before this year. I don't believe it. I don't. Because Scott Demore was willing to buy it. Scott Demore is very successful in, I think it was the housing market. I think he's a developer. That man knows business. He knows how to make money. He wouldn't just come in and, you know, um, throw away several $1 million on a promotion he doesn't think he can turn profitable if it's not somehow already profitable, right? Like he would obviously know if it could make money, and he felt it could. That's why he wanted to buy it. I do believe the story though that TNA's profits are being used to pay down Anthem, to some degree, or that TNA's profits are being hyperinflated so that they look better for potential buyers, and that's gonna fuck things up. This is who we've lost this year, like just as a whole. There might be some names. I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone, but here's at least who we're missing. We're missing Jody Threat, Mara Shade, Victoria Crawford, Tessa Blanchard, Steve Macklin, Myla Grace, Eric Young, Mike Santana, Tommy Dreamer, Sammy Callahan, Travis Williams, and Judas Icarus. I don't think I've missed anyone. That's a lot of people. And if it was just like one of those situations where they let these ones go and then they sign a bunch of others, okay, that's fine. You're allowed to turn your roster over. There's nothing wrong with that. It refreshes the product. Sometimes it's necessary. But they haven't signed anyone this year. Like who have they signed? They signed uh fucking Alana Black and uh what's her face? Dario Dario no, Daria Ray. They already had Indy Hartwell. And she's probably still on the same shitty contract that they had before. Um but like they haven't signed anyone. EC3 was supposed to be a big signing, and we'll talk about him in a little bit, but like he's nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, like from your perspective on the finance side, what do you think is the over under that if you had tossed it in the air, is it around the same thing or a little bit above, a little bit below when it comes to comparing what you have always assumed they made in NXT versus what apparently TNA is currently not paying people or fair to
Well,
pay people?
from what I understand, because I've talked to a few of these guys, the pay rates for TNA was often a little bit better than NXT for the year, but also TNA allowed wrestlers to go elsewhere. I think
Yeah,
like Nick Nemeth is probably making anywhere from $100 to $300,000 a year in TNA alone. Same with the Hardys; they're probably making more. I think Jason Hotch might be making 30 to 50 in TNA, and I think when you look at guys in NXT, they're probably making about 40 to 60 depending on who they are. Now, like there are outliers, like Joe and Nakamura signed with WWE specifically to work in NXT, but on close to main roster contracts. They got a bump when they went up, but like if Joe was making for the sake of argument, because this was, what was it, 2014, 2015, he left, 2016. If Joe was making 2 to 500,000 in TNA for the sake of argument, he was probably making 180 in NXT, and then got bumped up significantly higher for the main roster. But like he wasn't working, the in entry level position. Same with Nakamura, a few other guys like probably Bobby Roode probably were making closer to what they were making in TNA when they left, if not more. But then the other guys, like a Samuel Shaw, those were guys that, when they showed up in NXT, were probably making significantly less than they were in TNA, unless they were just making next to nothing in TNA, which is absolutely possible. So, like, I would say the pay is pretty. I would say the pay probably right now is better in NXT. That would be my guess. I haven't talked to anyone about it, but I would have to imagine that if you're mid card or lower in TNA, if you're, Jada Stone, going to NXT would get you a pay bump at this point, just because of how badly they're tightening their purse strings over there at TNA. But it's not all doom and gloom. Jason Hotch has proved to everyone that there is still some life in this company. A guy that we were all hoping would win the X Division title like a year or two ago. A guy that we were hoping would beat, Mustafa Ali in their brief little feud, has in fact beaten Mustafa Ali and won the TNA International Championship in the process, probably leaving Order 4 and maybe taking I can't remember her name. Marcus, what's her name?
yeah,
Tasha
Tasha
Steeles. Thank
still.
you. Yeah, taking Tasha Steeles with him, which I think would be a great combo. Kind of harkens back to the James Storm Jacqueline of it all. I really liked this move. This was a smart move. It was the right move, and it got Hotch over in a big way because people were talking about it. Now, they weren't talking about it like it was CM Punk debuting on, the first episode of AEW Rampage, or if they were actually able to sign Punk to a contract after he left AEW. But it was still, it got people talking positively about the brand, and that lasted for about 2 days. Are you excited about Hotch's TNA International Champion? And do you think, there's a ceiling for this guy that maybe goes beyond this belt?
Yeah, I think there's a feeling for guys like, when you look at guys that's left, like Jason Hodge, Don Musafali in that category. You look at Leon Slater, um, obviously Ricky Sosa. Guys like that got a lot that you could do with if you do the right things with them. We talk about it all the time. You got somebody like Trey who's out, still on the shelf or waiting in the wings. There's still a lot you can do. You still got uh, who will be left with order four, and I'm sure Ali's going to be potentially looking to replace, as he's already brought in a female, feels like a female replacement, on top of the system, which is still going doing anything. So you still got stuff to work with. You got to do the right things. And to your point, I think they absolutely did the right thing here. I feel like this was the natural progression of things with everything that you had seen been building with order four. I think Ali has been an exemplary champion, bringing a lot of prestige and relevance and consistency to that international title that was necessary for it. And yeah, I think they definitely went the right way. This was the right way to go. We oftentimes, unfortunately, see TNA a lot of times getting their own way when it comes to stuff like this, and either pull the trigger too late or don't pull the trigger at all. And I think they did the right move, and this was a phenomenal match. And I just hope they can, uh, book this well after the moment.
That's the hope. I'm grateful that they're giving someone like Hotch a chance to go with the belt, and I'm also excited about the fact that they do have Hotch still. They do still have Ricky Sosa. I think what this company needs is a dramatic shakeup. I keep thinking like, you know, we keep seeing the same feuds, the same gimmicks. I would love to see Moose and AJ Francis go on a tag team run. They're both ex NFLers. They're both ex linemen. They both have been top heels in the company. I think they'd be a great tag team. I'd like to see Nick and Ryan break up. I'd like to see Matt and Jeff break up, not forever, but like let Matt go into the international title scene, put Jeff in the world title scene. Freshen up the ranks a bit within your company. You don't need to go out and sign someone to $1 million contract to come in to boost the numbers. You can just shuffle things around, and they're not shuffling things around. It seems like they're stuck playing like Raw versus SmackDown '06, and they only have the same guys, so they're just repeating the same thing. It's always Undertaker versus Kane. It's always Undertaker versus Boogeyman. It's always Undertaker versus whomever. But like you have the option to freshen up your roster, tenfold by just doing the one thing that it's supposed to be in the fucking name of the department, and that's being creative. This company is still not fucking creative. The show's a little bit better. It's still not good. Anyone who's watching the product right now going, you know what? This is consistently the best television show in wrestling. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. It's not. It is not the best television show in wrestling. It is not the best characters in wrestling. It is not the best wrestling in wrestling. It could be if they were a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more willing to shake things up a bit. But they don't want to. And it shows in their product. But at least Hotch is getting a push. And Leon Slater and Ricky Sosa seem to be moving towards a tag team title match eventually. If they win it will, I guess, really determine, or be dependent on if Slater's going to resign or stay with the company longer than a few more months. But like, there's some opportunities here that could revitalize the company in the eyes of the fans that don't involve signings, and I hope they were smart enough to go do it. Speaking of signings, though, we have to talk about the now infamous video of EC3 at an indie show. A fan basically tweeted out that EC3 looked either drunk or high, and everyone started saying, well, he looks terrible. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people started to assume that it was drugs or alcohol, and that he's just, drinking away his life. I don't know if that's true. I can't say for sure one way or another. Here's what I can tell you from speaking with people who know him and who have been working with him. EC3 physically is fucked. I believe he needs work on his shoulder and maybe his elbow. He needs work on his hip and his knees. Like, he needs surgery. He's been broken for a while. If you've been watching his career for any sort of time over the last 2 or 3 years, you've seen it. Like, this isn't a new walk for him. And I don't think it's a walk of someone who's high. Maybe he's on too many medications for the pain. Certainly possible. I'm not a fucking I'm not gonna be able to diagnose him over a video. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a drug therapist. So, like, I'm not a counselor. I can't diagnose that. But I am an athlete, and I have been beating myself up for 40 years. So, like, I know what certain walks look like, and he looks like a dude who doesn't have the stability in his knees he once had. And I know there are ways, if you have the means, to turn back the clock a little bit. You look at guys like Edge, you look at Sheamus, you look at um, Johnny Morrison. You look at some of these guys, and they move pretty well for being in their mid to late 40s or 50s, and it's called stem cell. It's expensive though. It could be like $20,000 to $40,000 a procedure, and it doesn't always work. It's a high success rate, but there is a failure rate to it. It's like you're not guaranteed, though it's mostly guaranteed that it improves your condition. But I think there might be some concerns from within him, being EC3, of being afraid of surgery. Because I heard reports during his camps, during his training sessions here in Cleveland, that he was just wrecked and he wasn't going to stop anytime soon to get the surgeries needed. Is that accurate information? I trust the sources who have talked to me about it. I don't know if the sources they got it from, being him, being EC3, I don't know if he's being honest about it to the people I'm talking to. But I do know that there is some discussions being had in and around him and his camp, so to speak, about him needing to take time off for surgery and him not wanting to. So I do wonder if that's part of the reason why EC3 hasn't returned back to television in TNA. He only made like 3 or 4 appearances after that Cleveland show, or at and after the Cleveland show. So, like, I don't know what their plan for him long term is, but if you're watching the video, if you've seen the video, be it drugs or just a physical impairment, he's clearly not capable of being the wrestler he once was in his current state. Now, Spud, Rockstar Spud, one of our favorites, spoke to EC3, and EC3 tweeted out something that Spud quoted. Um, he's during the show it mentioned he was selling an angle. He's selling a leg angle. But he also said that there was a long travel day with multiple flights, heavy training, and he has a messed up leg. And in disrupted sleep, meal timing, hydration, and hours of travel, and my digestive system was completely off schedule. My GI tract could not produce my usual waste to lean himself out beforehand, because apparently, and this is something I've heard bodybuilders do, they will, let's just say, dump out before a competition, because like when you are so tight in the abdomen with abs, if you gotta go, you look bloated. So, like, that sounds right, but I don't know if it is right. He goes on to say the video circulating is taken from match 2 of a one night story where he is selling the effects of leg from earlier, which is already really hurt, but working as mentioned as through the injury. So it seems like the people closest to him aren't worried about him being, zonked out of his mind. But I wish the people closest to him would talk to him about his physical health and get him to sit down for a few weeks, maybe a few months, get the surgery he needs, maybe look into some kind of regenerative, health aspects like stem cell or something to that effect, and come back better than he's been in years. But he strikes me as a guy who's going to go into the wheels fall off, and that's terrible because he could still have another 10 years in his career, but at this rate, I don't know if he's going to make it through 2026 without retiring. He's just wrecked. Mark, is there any thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, it sucks because I saw that video and obviously by no means about shaming the guy, but he has a very particular build. He's always been jacked, um, but he's at a particular point now, and because the way his musculature is established, and with these new tats that I'm still not used to seeing it with the tats, but in that video it looked like. I mean, the best way to describe it looked like he was trying to do an impersonation, physical impersonation of RoboCop's walk. Like it looked that bad, and you talked about like he comes off like a guy's gonna try to go till the wheels fall off. He looks as bad as it sounds like he feels internally, and that's not a good thing. Like he really looks like that walk is very much indicative of having a very shaky foundation. And like I said, with his build, he really needs his legs and his lower half to be stable because if not, he's gonna look like how he looked in that video. Either like something is broken or something else is wrong. Now the ironic part is about everything you just said. While and thankfully he does have friends like Flood and others who will come to his defense and speak uh you know, coming off of something he said or on his behalf with his permission. He may not be on nothing now, but with everything you kind of listed off, feel like what's going on, along with what was said with what Spud tweeted out, that could very much lead to him getting on something, particularly if he's putting off surgery. Like
Uh,
it's not a crazy foreign concept, particularly not for athletes. So we hope, obviously we definitely don't want him to get to that point. But and I think I had commented this under the video on your page. He just really looks like somebody that just needs to take some time off and just get his stuff together.
hey, take a nap.
Yeah,
Eat an
it's like
apple.
yeah,
Like I don't think he's taking care of himself. And here's the thing, like I may be quick to dismiss like he wasn't high in the video or drunk, but I'm not
yeah,
quick to dismiss the concept that he's in trouble.
yeah,
I know yeah, I know we look at things like Scott Hall. He showed up, could barely move, was drunk off his ass. Or we look at more, overt things like the Ariana Grande controversies around her body weight and shape and size. Those are like both like two very bad things. Like, oh my god, like one this person is heading straight towards an OD that would kill him, and the other one is about to die of anorexia, maybe. And like, oh my god, isn't that terrible? And like we're all like, yes, that's terrible. You look at Rebel, that's awful. That's a terrible thing to go through. When you look at EC3, even if he's not high or drunk, he's so physically wrecked that people
yeah,
think he is because he can't walk normally. And I know in this like warrior culture, we're not supposed to be like, oh no, I'm hurt. No, it's really cool to be able to be, Jesse Ventura and Predator. I ain't got time to bleed. Well, if you're cut, you're gonna bleed, whether you got time or not, brother. And if your legs are wrecked, which I know for a fact they are, he's admitting they are. If you got other ailments that you're dealing with, you got to get this shit taken care of. And the fact that there's no one sitting him down going, you need to take care of your body, I think is a problem. I don't know if it's the bodybuilder mentality. I don't know if it's because he thinks he knows better. I'm worried about him. I don't want anything to happen to him. And I'm hoping he figures out that whether he's high, drunk, or not in this video, it's concerning. Because I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've been watching EC3 since what, 2011, 2012, when he was on NXT. He's not that good of a seller. He's not. So like this is either the best sell job he's ever done in his life, or he's leaning on that as an excuse. I want him to get the help he needs, whatever. If it's a chiropractor, if it's a surgeon, if it's a drug counselor, whatever it is, I want EC3 to take 3 or 4 months off to himself, get some fucking ice, get some aspirin, get a hot bath, and just recover. If you lose some of your gains, oh fucking well. It's better than losing you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because to your point, this is about long term vitality. And at this point, this is what's the name of quality of life. At this point, you go too long without this stuff, man, and you think you've been putting on one surgery for a while, and then you go in and you need two, three more because of the one you've been putting on. It's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with not eating that check engine light. And it looked like his check engine light has been on for a while. So I think we talked about it all the way back. And we get the gladiator mentality of some of these guys are in the old school realm of things, the way they think when it comes to this kind of stuff. We talked about it when it initially happened, and I think you mentioned like just how dumb you thought it was that Cody did what he did when his pec was torn,
Mm-hmm.
and how crazy that was to do that. But just some people in that kind of thing. But with him, it's just man, you talk about cutting wheels fall off. It looked like that wheel is very much squeaking right now. And I don't know what show that was, the way he is in terms of booking and whatnot. Maybe trying to get on like while they're getting good potentially, but it's like I said, it's about quality of life. If you do all this and then you hear about a story later when you had to be forced to sit down and now you're having to use something to help you walk, or you're in a different type of state where you can't do for yourself, it's just not going to be worth it. I mean, you talk about Rebel and God bless her, and we're going to get to SummerSlam. I think God bless KO for giving her the shout out that he did. But we've watched the journey that Chris Bay has had to go through, you know, and God bless him for pushing through and getting to the point where he is. But he's nowhere near uh, where he was. He's definitely far from where it was when we didn't know too much and it was kind of almost died there. But he still got a long road ahead of him. Have to you have to be the most important thing. It can't. You have to be more important in the ring and all this stuff. He's been going at it for how many years now? He's been everywhere. He's done a lot of stuff. It is no shame in taking care of yourself at this stage. Do you?
Agreed. Agreed. Speaking of taking care of yourself, let's talk about Busted Open. Now, last week, I was very much on the thought process of this is a Sirius XM decision, not a Busted Open decision. This is a Sirius XM decision. They own the contract for the distribution of Busted Open Radio, so Busted Open has to fall in line. But I also thought that it was a bad thing to see happen. I just wanted to make sure that we were putting focus on why it was happening and not on the wrong parties. Just because I was saying this is likely a Sirius XM decision, they're the ones that make decisions on the channels that get turned over. They have full total control over all this. Does not mean I want to let Busted Open off the hook, because this week we apparently have one of the biggest fucking loads of crock I've ever seen from a shill. So we know that Busted Open, for the most part, has they've been featured on AEW television. They've been shown front row. They even have photos. I think it's like Chris Jericho and maybe Kenny Omega or Will Ospreay or somebody like that going at it. Like they front row photos. TNA put him on the fucking stage and made him part of the show, and I think even made him part of the Hall of Fame announcements every once in a while. WWE just put them on television front row for SummerSlam for the first and only time. And according to a now online exchange, it was apparently made on the show, but King of the North, who's a longtime pro wrestling Twitter account, posted an image. Now, I don't know if he posted it. I don't know if somebody else posted it and he just stole it. I don't know. But he posted an image on his account that seems to be the honest reaction to this whole situation. Because I've not seen Bully Ray, I've not seen Dave LaGreca, I've not seen anyone sit here and say that's not what was said. The post reads, Bully, he's the one talking, forget about yes, the partnership is what it is, but I've said this on air to you hundreds of times. You have tendered yourself to overextended yourself to every wrestling company on the planet. Dave LaGreca responds, some of these companies thank me by putting me in section 313, row 12. Bully responds, how did the WWE thank us? LaGreca responds, putting us in the front row and identifying us during the broadcast. Bully, has any other wrestling company ever put us on the front row and identified us? LaGreca, no. Bully, should they have? LaGreca, yes. That is categorically a lie, as TNA has featured them prevalently. AEW has shown them on screen, sitting front row or close. And I think it's just fucking wild. Now, granted, Bully Ray is the biggest con artist in this industry. Like it's Disco and Bully, one and two. Bully can't take a slap to the head without fear of long-term concussion issues, and he still acts like he's a hard dude. But like to see them basically going whole ham on other companies who have historically shown them, promoted them, when other companies weren't doing shit for them. TNA had them on stage with pre-shows, and then we're incorporating them in the broadcast. AEW was bringing them on and showcasing them. Like Mark Henry was a longtime member of both Busted Open and the AEW broadcast team. Like this idea that they were somehow vilified and pushed out of the industry and ignored. We've never been respected before. Like motherfucker, please.
Acknowledge me.
Right? Like we get it. You want to play your best, heel card. You want to play your best victim card. I get it. There's a certain type of person in this country that always needs to be the victim. They're always being ostracized and vilified and shouted down. And what about me? What about 50-year-old white men? We get it. Your butt hurt. You're upset. Fans are not listening to your show anymore because you sided with the WWE. We get it. You're upset and you're trying to make the W look great. Here's the thing. The WWE is a soulless entity who will fire you the minute they find you either invaluable, no longer valuable, I should say, not invaluable, non-valuable. They will fire you when they find you to be no longer valuable, or when they decide that they need to cut costs and your show, which maybe did a few thousand every episode live, is not worth the money. Because again, here's what I need to tell you. SiriusXM only rebrands struggling channels. They are not going to risk ruining a channel that is a profit center for them for no reason. They're not going to. They will only ever do it to channels that need help. If this I forget what it was, like a Wrestle Nation, I think is what it was called, or something like that. If that brand got rebooted into WWE Radio, it is because the channel itself was not a draw and was costing them too much money to justify keeping on the air. I think they know that. I think whatever fans they had left and now they're hurt because their numbers don't look as good under the WWE radio banner as it did prior to the partnership. And here's the thing, these channels usually have a set contract. 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 6 months, what have you. It's very likely that if the network does not improve, this show, Busted Open Radio, is going to be the first one canceled because they're not going to cancel a WWE sponsored show. They're not going to, cancel a WWE back show. Sam Roberts is probably going to get a show eventually or what have you. Stephanie McMahon's podcast will be on. It'll just become a podcast farm. They'll have Stone Cold's podcast farm from 2017. They'll have Stephanie McMahon's terrible new podcast. What's that,
Yeah.
Marcus?
Acres. Yeah.
Who's?
Taker.
Oh, Takers. Like all that's going to be what this becomes. It's going to become the main event of wrestling radio. It's going to be rehashed podcasts that we've already seen before. It's going to be old episodes played ad nauseum because they're not going to want to sink money into it anymore if it's a failing identity. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I've only watched Busted Open when it's had somebody on that I cared to watch like All Truth and some others, and I've always obviously not Diamante, Thunder Rosa and Nick are people I like. But Bully Ray, like you said, everything you said about him is 100% factual, and probably go back on some stuff. And I think, maybe this is just me. Dave LeGreck has proven time and again that he's a fat head. He's a
So
fat head. Yeah,
let me interject. I don't agree with that because I think mine's worse. I think he's a pick me. I think he will rep whoever decides to give him validation, which makes him
mm,
even worse. If he was a fed head, at least it would feel like he has some type of skin in the game, some type of loyalty. But I don't think he is. I think he will
mm,
rep whoever is willing to pay him or give him validation. And that makes him wholly dangerous as a auditor about WWE, as someone who comments about pro wrestling. When you can't be expected to have a certain perspective on all things consistently, then you are not to be trusted. It's why I look at some of these like Colin Cowherd, Stephen A. Smith, Nick
yeah,
Wright. They say outlandish shit all the time,
yeah.
and it invalidates them. You might get a rating because we're hate watching, but I will never, ever hear anyone say anything positive about Stephen A. Smith or who was that Skeletor he was working with back at his Skip Bayless.
Skip Bayless, yeah, they just, yeah, it's a little shit show. And I was, and to your point, and I'm actually glad you brought that up about the pick me thing because I was going to ask you, this is not one of the worst cases of wrestling media main character syndrome that you've seen.
Oh, it's up there. It's up there. I've seen podcasters who get like 100 views like throw fits because they didn't get selected to, be a part of a meet and greet or something like that.
A
Uh,
media row, yeah.
yeah, it's like, brother, you and I have the same number of views. Why would you think you were going to media row, motherfucker? Please.
Yeah, it's to your grander point about the WWE thing. Very much feels like a scene out of one of our both one of our favorites when the vampires had to work with Blade in the second movie. Whistler, Whistler, what do you think? They goes, they go F us the first chance they get.
Yeah.
That's exactly what WWE does to their own talent.
Mm-hmm.
And what do
W
you think? You get? Come on, man.
the WWE will literally do whatever they can to earn a buck, even if it means destroying the legacy of one of their biggest names. They're not above that. Don't think they're not. But I also need to point this out because again, it feels like people aren't realizing what's happening. Everything the WWE touches fails. Everything. Now, the only thing that doesn't seem to have quote unquote failed is the wrestling itself. But every venture they ever get into eventually becomes nothing more than a content farm to some degree. Be it a bodybuilding federation that goes tits up, XFL that went up tits up twice. You're now looking at this a radio channel. They've done podcasts and broadcasts before, and everyone's like, well, they're gonna do pay-per-view broadcasts on the network, and that's gonna be great for those that are hard of seeing. And listen, it will be for the 6 months they do it. They're not gonna do this full time. They're not gonna have this on forever. If it's not making them money, they'll stop doing it. And considering the state of the channel before they acquired it, the broadcasting rights, It has not been doing well. And considering it's behind a paywall, it's not going to do well because how many wrestling fans are really going to sack up, what is it, $12 a month? $100 a year, something like that for SiriusXM to listen to wrestling that from people who they don't respect. I have SiriusXM and I'm thinking about canceling it, not because of this. For they had a great punk station, mentioned this before, Faction Punk. But also when I'm at work and I can't watch sports because I'm doing my rounds or what have you, I can listen to the games on Sirius and be able to take notes for my other job as a sports writer. So like I'm able to jot down notes and listen to what's happening and not have to watch the games. So there's a component in there for me that works. Now Busted Open and Wrestle Nation, whatever it was called, was great when I had when the games were over and I wanted something to listen to, and they were doing Six Strings of Punk and I didn't give a shit, or they were doing interviews and I didn't give a shit. I could then, oh, there's a wrestling channel, let's see what's on. I did not get Sirius XM for the wrestling channel. And I don't know many people who do. I can't imagine they're doing that many views because SiriusXM themselves aren't doing that great. It's why they have to do stunts like having the Taylor Swift channel pop in and out of existence every few months so they can hopefully get a few Swifties to sign up to listen to Taylor Swift 24/7. But why would they do that when there's fucking Spotify?
Yeah, it's in the way WWE has hold themselves out. I mean, at this point, they're underplaying you with the free weekly TV stuff, uh, overpaying or unnecessarily paying for the pay per view that they've spread across God knows how many platforms, uh, or got it through one or a couple platforms, and it's over unnecessarily complicated. And even with that, you basically paying for ads. You're not even paying for the wrestler. You're paying for the ads that they overdoing.
Didn't they have
And then you,
like
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Didn't they have like 20 minutes of wrestling on SmackDown last weekend? Isn't SmackDown now a 3-hour show?
Wolves is back to two.
Still 20 minutes though.
I think it's back to two. I had to check it. It's some I go so in and out with it. Like I didn't watch SummerSlam for I just because I knew it was on ESPN. I'm like they just gonna do all the highlights of every match anyway. So what's the point of me? They're gonna properly highlight the match like they do what they do with the games. So there's no point in me even trying to watch all of the. Why do I need to sit down and watch the full human monies on a pole match with admittedly probably one of the only things that's consistently working on their TV right now is Danhausen. But why was that a match on the show?
Good
So it's
question.
yeah, I mean they the only thing that's not suffering is their bottom line because they making money hand over fist. They gonna hold themselves off of these advertisers, but it's the product and the fan. I mean, and then they may come up with something else for you to put for these kind of addicted fans to pay for Club WWE. So what you can have access to exclusive John Cena merch at about his retirement. Like what are we and fans think they're getting, they're getting the bang for their buck. And these people in the cities.
Insidious is a good word. And right now they are making money hand over fist, but I'd be hard pressed to assume that the Netflix deal will be the same length and profitability should they decide to renew it. And while they are basically dragging as much money out of USA Network as possible, even I think at some point USA's got to be like, listen, we don't need to keep paying you what we're paying you because you're not generating the results that you are supposed to. I don't know what SummerSlam's attendance was, but it wasn't good. They didn't even announce it. That's whatever you want to say about the attendance for SummerSlam. Whether you're like, well, no, like night two was more attended. They didn't announce the attendance for either or both events, which tells me they're embarrassed by it. Because it's one thing to inflate a number like, hey, we put 65,000 and 80,000 seat venue. We'll just say we sold out. Yeah, no one's gonna thumb their nose at 65,000 people for a show. I think we're not gonna do that. That's dumb. But like if you only had across 2 nights, 60,000 in let's just say 140,000 available seats, yeah, we're not gonna tell everyone that we had about 40% of the venue filled across 2 nights. That's fucking wild. We would look terrible. But that's happening. And if that's happening, if people aren't attending the events, they're not watching them because I know there's a lot of people who'd be like, well, it's cheaper to watch it. And you're right. But when you have the disposable income, right, to go see the shows, it makes sense that you would go if it's something that you truly feel passionate about. It's that idea of passion. Do you have the money? Do you have the desire? Now, you could say, hey, listen, the economy's in the shitter. Everyone's paying 3 times as much as they were 5 years ago. Everything is terrible. Things aren't good. And you'd be right. You know, disposable income is a fantasy at this point. And I think we just dumped like $500 million into the Federal Reserve. So like, we're heading towards a depression. So like, you'd have an argument there, like, no, 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 Chad. It's not that people don't want to watch. It's that they don't have the money to go. But people don't seem to realize that when you love something, you make a point to go. I know the idea of like food, rent, gas, it has to be a priority. But let's just say you are living pretty tight to your means. You do food, rent, gas, and maybe you have like some video games or cards or what have you. If you really want to go to that event, you'll stop buying cards or video games for a couple months, save up so you can go to the event because you love it so much. That's not happening anymore. That's not happening anymore because the passion for that product is gone. It's why the ratings are down. It's why attendance is down across the board in every city, not just in, I don't even know the fuck where they were Sunday. Atlanta, Georgia, the other Georgia in Europe. I don't fucking know. I don't care. Uh, they,
Yeah,
they're in Indianapolis, you said?
yeah.
Okay. So, like, I don't think the passion is there right now. I don't think, like, everyone was talking about it a year ago because, like, WrestleMania fell off. Not just this year, but last year. People were talking about how the what do they call it? The boom period is over for them, and it is. It's absolutely over. The shows are bad. The booking is bad. The layouts are bad. Everything about this company has somehow gotten worse over the last 3 or 4 years. I would say 2 years before the pandemic is when everything fell apart. Because like in 2016, you and I were very big fans of SmackDown,
Yeah.
right? Like with AJ Styles and everything, like there was a lot going on there. But a couple years after that, things fell apart. They weren't focusing on the same things. The booking became bad, and then Triple H took over, and we're like, oh. And then these 60, 70, $80 shows. I don't know what they're fucking making you spend money on with ESPN because like you have to buy the show I think with the ESPN app or maybe you just need the ESPN app. I know you have to with the UFC. Like I know the UFC pay per view is like $100, but like you're either paying for a subscription or you're paying for a subscription and the pay per view and you're getting 5 matches across 4 hours with a lot of advertisements. And I remember when they started doing more advertisements, Ed, who used to do the show with us, or with me specifically, we're not on good terms. I hope he's doing well, though. He's like, it's only a 30-second ad. I'm like, that's how it starts, man. It starts as just a 30-second ad, and then it's commercials on pay per views. And he's like, that's never going to happen. It happened. It happened. We have talking heads, we have commercials, we have Chad Gable winning the IC title at SummerSlam, and then a root beer mascot gets on the ring and makes him chug a root beer. Yay, wrestling. This company's a joke.
Well, I remember when the weirdest ad me and Chad used to see was that random uh weird football commercial doing NWA horror. You remember that?
The football commercial.
that random weird football commercial that wasn't about. It was about something weird, but that was
I
the weirdest thing. Now that they have ads that are sometimes longer than actual matches.
if Triple H is
Which
booking
is
it, yeah,
insane.
probably. Let's pivot though and talk about SummerSlam for a bit. It was this weekend. Um, does the Wikipedia give any idea about attendance? They're saying 36,000 night one, 33,000 night two for a total of 69,769. The venue holds 66,000 for football, but it can be expanded to 73,000. So even with the two nights, they didn't even get a full sellout. And if my math is correct, they didn't even do half the second night of the venue, and the first night they did a little bit better than half. So like not great. And like this is the same thing that we were talking about with TNA back in the day when they ran the Alamo Dome. Yeah, you did 10,000 people or whatever it was, and it looked great on television. But you only did 10,000 in a 100,000 seat venue. So like maybe pick better venues. And that was Dixie's biggest issue was allowing them to book venues that they could never sell out. But I think SummerSlam as a whole wasn't great, just in terms of like what they were doing. I still don't understand the Solo Sokoa face push. Like I don't know what they're doing there. Liv Morgan beat Io Sky to retain the world title. She's pretty much destroyed all of her goodwill with the online community. So like we'll see what happens there because apparently she's connected to some alt right groups or what have you that are doing conversion therapy for gay people, which doesn't work. LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys. At least that's the rumor. I don't want to say she's actually connected to it. I don't know. But that is the narrative that the wrestling community has somehow glommed onto on Twitter. And, they've pretty much soured on Liv Morgan. Then we have LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, and Royce Keys defeating the Bloodline. Are we in the third inning yet? I don't fucking know. The Bloodline is so fucking stale. No one gives a shit. The Usos suck. Jacob Fatu's being wasted. It's a goddamn travesty. Nick Aldis lost to Gunther in a match that no one was talking about. So like that doesn't give me strong hopes about what Nick Aldis might be doing for the WWE going forward. Fatal Influence defeated the Bella Twins, who turned on Paige after the match. It was the Bella Twins and Paige. Sorry, I keep forgetting Fatal Influence is three people, even though they're all pretty terrible. Um,
To seeing Paige get a thing at this point, but uh,
buddy.
yeah, but yeah, even a blind man could have saw that coming. Unfortunately, I think Bree went down with an injury. Um, but I doubt Nikki minds going solo for a little bit, even though I feel like they keep missing each other. This whole thing is supposed to be their last run together, and they keep one gets injured there, and then now she comes back, and then the other one gets injured, so that sucks. But I doubt Nikki's gonna mind because she just kind of wants to be a heel, so we'll see how that goes. But this is probably definitely was their last run, so yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I think it has to be like Jesus. They can't stay healthy. I do find it hilarious though that they're pretty much running it back because like they've never really been a good tag team. They've never been good athletes, and they've kind of stolen whatever made them popular from other gimmicks. And now they're stealing the Mortis 30 Machine Guns gimmick of 2012 and 2013, where each guy kept getting hurt. So like, right? So like, I think it's kind of funny. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes had a match that no one thought positively of, which I think is kind of sad because I think Punk can still go, and Cody is still fine. Like it should this match should have been a dream match. Like just two great ring technicians going at it, and just fucking terrible. Obafemi defeated Brock Lesnar. We'll talk about this more after we talk about SummerSlam. Kevin Owens returned after Gunther was added to a match for the U.S. title, number one contendership. Or I'm sorry, not U.S. title, the undisputed WWE Championship. Kevin Owens wins. He will now eventually face off with, I guess, CM Punk. I don't want to see that. I every single dude in this match was 40 years old or older, save for Gunther. So like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. Match went 8 minutes and 30 seconds. What the fuck are we doing? Baron Corbin defeated Trick Williams with Little Yachty, because Little Yachty. Uh, I don't think anyone wanted to see Baron Corbin come back and win a title, let alone the U.S. title, let alone Trick Williams. Now they're like, well, Trick Williams is going on to bigger and better things. Okay, cool, cool. Put the belt on anyone else, please. Chelsea Green won the women's interim championship. I don't know why we don't just call it the regular championship because apparently, if you're hurt, you get to keep the belt. Fuck it. She defeated Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill, Lash Legends, and Tiffany Stratton. Like, listen, I like Chelsea Green as much as anyone. Not really. I don't actually like her at all. I think she's kind of, eh. But like, this is gonna be, Sami Zayn winning the world title. She's gonna lose it in 3 weeks, and then everyone's gonna be like, "What was the point of that?" Well, the point is that they can now market her as a world champion, even though they'll never actually use her like one. That's the point.
Yeah, the whole I mean, it's funny because another skull thing on the weekend was Triple H going on the post show, which now they curate these little these press conferences now overly curate because they can't afford to have him ask any real questions the way he was. I think that last print, particularly when that bench stuff was going on, so they screen and stuff now. But for him to go on and be like, talent that young talent that tired of people being in the same spot, they need to work harder and this, that, and the third. Because if you're not going to be more over than Cody or Roman or Liv Morgan or some of these other people or Punk, then you kind of gotta just work hard. But then also said that fans need to kind of get back to suspending disbelief. It's kind of easy to say that you're disillusioned the way it is, and then you have promote something in the same breath like WWE Unreal that feels hurting so damn far back that we can see the freaking mosquitoes that's
Mm-hmm.
in the creative. So we already seen how they kind of feel about Chelsea, particularly why he's still around. I don't know, freaking Michael Hayes. How they
Yeah.
view her. For me, I like Chelsea Green. I think she had one of the great feel good moments in the last however many years when she initially won the U.S. title. But the only reason to me why she won it because the interim thing ultimately it's a non thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a legit thing. This is the most what you call it a empty victory that you can get. So she can say she was a champion without actually being one, which is how they think about her anyway.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who have fallen off, speaking of Michael Hayes, I don't know why we still talk about Michael Hayes. Apparently, Chelsea Green, big fan of Michael Hayes. Shouldn't be, but she is. Danhausen defeated Dominic Mysterio in a human monies on a pole match. Like, listen, cute gimmick. Human monies. Dominic Mysterio's fallen the fuck off. Like, just fallen the fuck off. I'm not surprised though. He's 30 and he's gotten worse in the ring. He and this was something that we talked about when he was debuting back with his dad as a tag team. There's concerns whenever you go straight to the WWE without doing indie shows because when you do the indies, when you're good enough to tour foreign companies like in Mexico and Japan, you pick up so many small nuances that make you a better competitor and make you a better wrestler. And Dom has never done that. He went straight to the big leagues and he plateaued. He's not gotten better. He was slightly more interesting when he joined the Judgment Day, but he's kind of been proven to be very uncharismatic. Like he's fine. He's certainly not going to be, the person who grabs a mic and everyone has to listen. No one's going to turn off what they're doing to listen to him talk. In the ring, he's not a great athlete. He's in better shape than when he debuted, but he's long, he's gangly, he doesn't really have a lot of muscle. He doesn't move all that particularly well. But then again, this isn't that surprising. You look at fucking, Michael Jordan, arguably one of the greatest athletes in human history. His son's terrible. You can't just expect greatness because your father was great or because your mother was great. And Dominic is far from what his father was. And I think while the WWE still sees value in him as a heel, I don't think he's going to be someone who can realistically be a world champion anytime soon, if ever. because he's just not that guy. Now maybe he can find another gear. Maybe he's going to take everything that's being said about him to heart, go down to the developmental center, train every single day he's not working on television. But if he's not doing that now, why would that matter later? So I don't know. I think the Dom train has fallen off, just like the Hook train has fallen off, and I think rightfully so.
I haven't seen anything like I don't think I've even seen him on AEW TV proper. Um, I've actually seen more Taz than I've seen of him. But yeah, Dominic, I said on the previous show. To me, he peaked. He was the abused pet of everybody's favorite golf kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he got away from that, and he could put him with Liv, and then they milked that for dear God. I think it was just gonna eventually just fade out. And because to your point, he to me he's mid in the ring. He has his spots, he has his moments. But I'm not going out of my way to watch a Dominic Mysterio match any day of the week.
I don't think Rey Mysterio is going out his way to watch a Dominic Mysterio match.
Yeah, that's it's just not a thing. It's cool that he's been able to find a spot for himself and have his moments and be one of the most booed people, I guess, in this particular era. But even that's died down. The Judgment Day is not what it was. Live or she's come. That continues to suffer from the way they book women. They put a title on you, but you don't defend it barely ever, and then we're supposed to take you serious. So it's just one of those things. But to me, to your point, if he has any hope, it might likely be in AAA because I think the narrative of him going anywhere significant is clapped on the main roster.
Agreed. Agreed. One old man beat another old man for the Intercontinental title. Gable went over on Penta, and like, listen, that's it's cute. Gable, finally wins a title of significance.
You know,
But then it was ruined by a fucking root beer commercial at the end of it. So like, whatever. It's fucking awful. And then the main event, Roman Reigns beats Seth Rollins in the most mediocre match I could think of. Um, then they maybe reformed a tag team or just showed mutual respect or what. I don't fucking know.
yeah,
These
it
two
was it
dudes
was
have been
it,
main eventing for 12 years. It's time to move on. It's time to move on. And that's the problem I have with like putting Oba or Braun Breaker or any of these other dudes that are like 26, 27 in the main event scene. All you're going to do is the exact same thing we've had to sit through with Roman and Seth. Push them and 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 push them. It might work initially. Like Oba versus, Braun Breaker might be a great WrestleMania main event. Hell, we might get into two, three, or four great main events with them across years. But eventually they're going to fall aside. They're going to take a step back, regress, and be less impressive, less you know talented in the ring than other guys. And we're gonna watch what they just did for the last 12 years, and they're gonna do it again. They're gonna look past certain guys, whatever that generation's LA Knight is gonna be, because he's too old or too whatever, too young, too whatever. And then we're going to have to deal with the fact that we're seeing another generation of guys get passed over. Like, yeah, Trick Williams probably going to be a world champion within the next 2 years, but considering how long he'll be in the main event scene, barring a failure, that kind of worries me. I think about JBL's title run, and I don't know if it feels the same to you. I feel like JBL's title run looks better in hindsight
yeah,
because there wasn't a second one. We weren't inundated with 12 years of JBL as world champion. He was a world champion from 2004 to 2005. Then he sparsely competed for the world title every so often when it was guys like Batista or Chris Jericho. I think he faced for the title maybe, but he wasn't Rey Mysterio because he lost to Rey and then retired. But like he wasn't in the world title scene for the next 10 years, and I think that gave him a bit of refreshing breath. which I don't think we're going to get right now. Are you worried about the WWE repeating the same process with the young core of guys like Trick, Oba, Braun Breaker, and whomever else, with another 12, 13 years of them just being constantly pushed down our throats?
Yeah, because they repeat narratives that in their mind work, but ultimately to the fans like you and I that consistently logical, like you trying to repeat with new people what you did with Cena and Orton is not the move. It's just not. It's not the move. You bring in people like Braun with this momentum, and then you cut the legs off from under them, and then you put them in a group they didn't need to be in, and then they're the big dog of that group, and then you feed them to somebody to your point like Rollins, so that cuts out the momentum. But then there's still this overly aggressive, domineering force against somebody like a honestly who did he beat up? Otis or somebody to that point of Joe Hendry or somebody. But it's like then they got over, and to your point, like what's gonna happen? Like, because at this point, people get fed to them, or they get you can run them in the brawn, but those two guys need to kind of be damn they're running parallel instead of to each other to a
Mm-hmm.
point. So it's I don't either pull the trigger too late, give it too pull the trigger too late on somebody like a Gable, damn near give it too much gas like somebody like Trick at certain instances, or don't pull the trigger at all with people. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like I don't like I said, it's dubious behavior because in their mind they doing the right stuff. Or as we see on WWE Unreal, if we strike while the iron's hot, the fans are gonna revolt because they think the machine's pushing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jeez.
I mean, you bring up some valid points. Speaking of a guy though who's been main eventing for 14 years, Brock Lesnar is officially retired. Um, it does seem like he intended to retire at WrestleMania, and they brought him back just to do the job for Oba at SummerSlam because they knew SummerSlam wasn't gonna sell. So Brock's officially done. Um, any thoughts on Brock being done?
Man, he had a hell of a career. At one time he was the big thing, and he left off pushing what is hopefully the next big thing. And over. Cut off for a second there. Yeah, he started off the next big thing, and then hopefully, ended his career on what properly booked will be the next big thing and over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if a lot of things can be said about Brock, both good and bad. Um, but he always did stuff his way, whether it was to his detriment or to his benefit, and he just a hell of an entertainer, definitely a hell of an athlete. When we first debuted, he literally looked like a mutant the way he had those mountainous traps and shoulders and whatnot. And yeah, man, the dude was a real freak of nature. Still is a real freak of nature. But yeah, if you're gonna go out, it's cool to see the fact that he wanted to go out, putting over somebody that in likelihood could replace the narrative that he leaves behind. So you got to give him that. Like you said to your point, I don't know if they wanted to do this at Mania. They needed to bring him back because obviously, like you said, they needed a get for SummerSlam. In terms of the match, I don't necessarily know if they finished that match the way it was supposed to end, but he went out his way, and most people on his own steam and the way he wanted to and how he wanted to, because he's not doing a big hullabaloo at all. Like, no, that's my last match. I'm letting everybody know I'm gone, and I'm going back to the woods. So kudos to him. I'm glad we do live in a time where we are seeing people get to end their career the way that they want,
Mm-hmm.
better conditions and health than we've seen in decades prior.
Yeah, I agree. Can't wait to see him back at WrestleMania though. That'll do it for this week's show. Any final thoughts on anything, Marcus?
Oh yeah, Punk, I love you. Please stay off the top rope.
Yeah, dude. Either
You can
either get
go on the
yourself either get yourself a pool membership and just practice doing fucking moonsaults into it, or stop doing moonsaults. Just please, brother. please.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was goddamn horrendous. Botchamania got a new standard. Um, yeah, that's about it for me. Oh, and like I said, it was the real quality moment of the weekend on SummerSlam was um KO shouting out Rebel. Continue to fans listening, continue to keep in your thoughts and prayers that she is going through a hell of a fight right now,
Hmm.
and hopefully in Chad in our lifetime we do see a cure around something for
Yeah.
particular stuff like ALS in general because it is hitting. Uh, it's crazy because I remember at a time when we thought people were just doing that challenge and we really didn't know what that was or what that looked like, and now we have a lot of instances. I think obviously it, somebody that covers much sports if you do know about Chris Johnson and he's going through a
Hmm.
similar thing right now. So
Well, and
just yeah,
one of the guys from your Super Bowl winning teams down there in New Orleans when they won the title was it 2008? I think his name was Gleason. I might be wrong on the name. He went through ALS and
yeah,
passed away unfortunately. The thing with ALS, and I think why it's hitting so much right now in wrestling, is it's potentially because like there's a lot of unknown things, but they do think head trauma can cause ALS to some degree.
yeah,
Um, and that's, it's one of those things in pro wrestling, especially, that is a concern. If you're a wrestler and you take too many bumps, there's a good chance you can develop it. So like I think there's a lot of people who are like banding together right now. One, because Rebel is such a sweetheart. Everyone, I've never heard a bad thing about her. When
yeah,
TNA signed her, she was, in her mid to late 30s or something close to that, and just busted her ass to be as good as possible. She got hired on because I think Christy Hemme was friends with her, or Brooke
yeah,
Tessmacher, someone was friends with her, and she got hired on. And while she was never a great wrestler, she was always someone people liked, and people loved her, and she kept getting work because people liked her. And to see so many people talk so positively, like I don't know if Kevin Owens knows her. I don't think she does. I don't think he does. He might go on there during his little interview post match and talk up Rebel and do that I thought was a nice gesture from someone I don't really think too highly about. I don't think too highly
yeah,
about Kevin Owens. So like to see him do that, I thought was a real good move. And like they're not the only ones. Like TNA shouted her out, and like people like Mick
exactly, yeah,
Foley just did the ALS challenge with her, and they got him by surprise, and it made her just laugh, and she lit up, and we know how this is gonna end for her, unfortunately. But to see the wrestling community band together to give
mm-hmm.
her these moments, I think is a wonderful thing, in spite of the very heavy reality she's facing.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful that they're doing it. So it's nice to see, though we wish we didn't have to. We wish this wasn't a thing that anyone had to go through. But since it is,
yeah.
it's good to see the best of humanity coming through in these darkest times. With that being said,
Indeed.
we're gonna shuffle off. We got things we got to do. Um, RealNerdCorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. Marcus, you're on Twitter at ParadoxKid, PARADOXKID.
That is me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. Go to their Twitter account. They post all the links to their show on their Twitter account. Marcus, what are you guys talking about this week on the pod?
Yeah, man, just keeping track of all things G1 right now. Have been to the G1. Go check out keeping up with all those days consistently. It's a hell of a thing, but True Penny Show is on that beat. So go check that out and a lot of other shows on the way.
Check them out there. Be sure to follow me on my personals at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp on Twitter, and at Chad's Photo Hut on Instagram at ChadSphotoHut. You can also find us on Twitch and YouTube at Wrestling Underground. You can find us on the website again as WrestlingUnderground.com. I am working on those mid-year report cards. I mean, I'm not, but I'm going to. Don't worry, they're coming out before December. I promise you that. Um, I have like three mostly done, so I could actually start posting them tonight, and I might. We'll figure that out. We'll be back next Tuesday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. I remembered it this week, and Marcus, take us home.
Good night.